Welcome to the Strong Legacy Podcast, a place where real stories shape real strength. Here we focus on resilience, growth, and the commitment to building optimal well being. Each episode features genuine conversation with people who have faced hardship, shown courage, and created purpose through their experience. Our aim is to inspire you to strengthen your body, sharpen your mind, and steady your spirit as you pursue your own goals and legacy. Before we begin, a brief disclaimer. The views and experiences shared in this podcast are for general information and inspiration. Nothing discussed should be taken as professional, medical, or legal advice. Please seek qualified guidance for matters relating to your health, well-being, or personal situation. The stories shared belongs to each guest and may not reflect the views of the host or any organization. Listener discretion is advised as some episodes may cover trauma, loss, or challenging events. Thank you for being here. This is Strong Legacy Podcast, where strength is lived, learned, and passed on. Let's begin. Welcome to Strong Legacy Podcast. Today's episode focuses on Got Your Six, standing beside one another when it matters most. Law enforcement carries unique pressures that can quietly erode well-being, purpose, and hope. We are joined by a former police officer who brings lived experience, insight, and message of strength through support. This conversation is about breaking silence, encouraging help seeking, and reminding every member that no one stands alone. G'day, brother. How you doing?
I'm good, mate. How's yourself?
Yeah, not too bad. Yeah, mate, we'll dive into this. Did you want to introduce yourself and we'll go into the questions, eh?
No worries at all, mate. Some people may know me, but probably not in a good sense. But my name's Brad Greenland. I joined the Queensland Police Force in 1988 after 10 years in the Australian Defence Force. I then did my training in Cairns, and I got to stay in Cairns. I relieved on the Cape as a trainee back in those days. There was no women north of Cairns, so it was all men. But we just did relieving up and down the Cape when they wanted us out of Cairns. So did all that. Townsville was probably the biggest city I worked in 33 years of service. I retired in 2021, and so three decades in the job and a decade in the army. So takes its toll on you, but overall.
Yeah, no, it's a long haul or 40 years of serving. So no, I take my hat off for you, brother. With that, obviously you've been in this, obviously in army and the police. So what does got your six genuinely mean with policing culture beyond the operational sense?
Well, you got to look after each other. That I mean, in the old days, there was a little bit of, everybody had everyone's back, no matter the case, whether you liked the person or not. It was a huge part of policing to back your mate because, that's all there was. There was just us against the world. So, if you don't look after each other, you fall through the cracks, then there's going to be some serious consequences.
From your experience, what are the early warning signs that a colleague may be struggling?
Well, look, I'll just talk about myself personally because I don't. I only ever used myself as an example, and I did it. I worked at the police academy here for 12 years or so, and I used to always use myself and my own experiences to explain the law and things what not to do and the consequences of not doing them, if that makes sense. So for myself, um, I tried to include everybody in everything we did as much as I could, and I tried to educate them to get a positive result out of whatever work they were doing. As we went through the work, I was diagnosed with post-traumatic stress, major depression, alcohol disorder, anxiety, anxious distress, I think they called it, the other thing. But they all came out of the job. And for me, it wasn't a specific job that caused the mental illness. It was a meniscus. My psychiatrist called it a meniscus. Each little drop in the bucket filled the bucket over a period of time. I did nothing about it except drink alcohol with all the rest of the police. That's what we did. We went and we watched each other six, but we did it over a six pack. If that makes sense. We sat there, we drank a fair bit of alcohol, but what we did was we discussed we sort of debriefed ourselves, and then when we were up for it, we went home, and then we came to work the next day and did the same thing. So when the meniscus got full, like the day before, I was found sitting in the gutter outside my house, in tears, and thankfully a detective's wife drove by and saw me sitting there. And when I didn't answer her, she called him up and they came up, and the rest is history. But the day before, I was working in plain clothes, and I won't say the other detective's name I was working with, but the two of us got a bloke here who was one of the Murphy brothers. They murdered Anita Cobby years ago. They took a nurse off a railway siding and did horrific things to her. But anyway, they were arrested and went to jail. So there was some justice for her, but she still lost her life. But so that was probably one of the best arrests of my life. Danny Murphy, his name was. There were six of them, and they ruled Bondi in the 60s and 70s. But this girl made a complaint. She was a street kid. She got snatched off the street, and they did some horrific things to her. But anyway, we went and got him, and we took the interstaters out. We got him extradited. We took him out that night, which was the done thing. You know, you entertain your interstate guests, and the next morning I was sitting in there for no reason at all, sitting in the gutter, just crying. I don't even remember being there really, but I probably should have gone 2 years earlier. But in answer to your question, sorry, I'm mucking around a bit there, but I probably should have gone 2 years earlier. But everybody just thought I drank a lot of alcohol. But that was me trying to self-medicate, trying to drown it out of my head, because these things start to keep you awake at night, as most working coppers know. You get paranoid. You do perimeter checks in your house. You're totally switched on 100% of the time. Even in the military, you know, they flick the switch, you're switched on, and you never turn it off. Even when you come home, you don't turn it off. So I had a brand new wife, I had a brand new baby, and here I was with post-traumatic stress and a bunch of other roadblocks going on. And I took 5 months off. I went to work cover. One of the biggest battles I had was not against my own demons, although they were substantial. The hardest thing for me was dealing with work cover. And when I proposed certain things to management, I got nowhere. So I just went back to drinking. And the boys all sat down and drank with me, thinking it was just me drinking alcohol, but it was me sort of calling out, not a cry for help, I suppose, but they could see that I needed something, and nobody stepped up and acted, you know what I mean? Because we all just looked after each other in that manner at that time. So that's what it was. You wouldn't do it these days, I guess, but you still need that sort of interaction. But we've removed the alcohol. I've since quit alcohol actually, but I drank for 40-something years, 43 years. So I don't miss it. But yeah, so now I just deal with a few injuries here and there that I picked up along the way, and there should be more earlier intervention, I guess. You know, you see someone drinking or using drugs or taking days off, or, you know, even some would come and confide in you if they trusted you, which was a good thing. I was a union rep as well. And so I spent a lot of time sitting with people being interviewed, etc. And they weren't pleasant times either for them. although I did the best I could for them. But the management, the senior management for mine, have never really got the grasp of looking after the troops. You know, I think I had about 7 or 8 commissioners. First one got 14 years for corruption. Yeah, and you know, they all brought a different sort of mindset to the game, but it never travelled all the way down to where it should have to the troops. You know, so there's only us sort of trying to battle against the tide. It was a bit of a tsunami of stress related jobs, not debriefed, and we just drank ourselves into a coma and then went back to work. So that was basically it.
Yeah, it's a bit of a like nowadays, obviously with better understanding of traumas and stuff like that. I think there's the psychology 7 sessions per year has been free, accessible. You can do, but there's a lot of stuff there slowly coming there. But yeah, having that buddy where you can go and talk about the issues, which what you're saying is, I think it's a very important one. That's a good point there. Why do you think there's a stigma and pride still prevent many officers from seeking help?
Look, there's many and varied reasons, mate, but for myself, I would say I personally didn't want to let my team down. I didn't want my mates to think that I wouldn't be reliable in a life or death fight, you know, or just any job really, because nearly every job has some sort of hands-on,
Yeah.
the way you roll, especially the shifts you work. Was working when I first started, you could choose your shifts. I was working night shifts, permanent midnight to 8, so it was great fun. You know, it was fun to be in the job for about the first probably 12, 15 years. I had a great time. It's the best thing you could do with your clothes on. It was a fun time. But in all that time, things were just building up inside, you know, and
Yeah.
the euphoria and the adrenaline sort of takes over, and it gets in front of you, and you get sort of addicted to it. And so you want to do more crazy shit to get in to the job a bit further. Yeah, and then when you're finished, you all just go home. Your wife, your parents, your husband, your significant other, your partner, they don't know what you've done. And my wife was a nurse, and so she was well placed to talk about it with, but I didn't want her to have it in her mind like I had it in my mind. So I'm thinking if I share it with her or someone else, I'm going to bring them to where I am. And I didn't want to do that. That was in. I know it's not a very fluid thought pattern, but that's what I was doing. But it was the wrong thing, totally the wrong thing. I should have shared. I should have talked.
So
You
you
know,
sort of like didn't open up as much. Is that what you're saying? Like,
that's
so
right. Yeah,
trying to
you don't open
protect.
up as much. No, because you know, the gossip. There's a lot of gossip. You know, petty crap that comes into the I guess the mealroom sort of environment, or um, the social environments after work, and you don't want people to think not that you're weak, that you just can't handle what you're doing, where in fact you actually can, and you're probably at the top of your game, but you just don't deal with the aftermath, and the aftermath is what gets inside your head and messes with your brain, messes with your thoughts, your sleep, your health, your diet. It just has a massive knock-on effect, in my opinion, and that's what happened to me. So that's where I am with that.
Oh yeah, that's thank you for sharing that. Like that's very inspiring stuff. Like sometimes we forget that yeah, we're only humans, and we can only talk so much, but we gotta start keep working on ourselves. But at the time, probably you guys didn't have that kind of support. So
No.
And that facade, like you said, didn't want to feel like you're weak if you speak about it. So it's a
Correct. Yeah.
yeah. And how can peers have safe, practical conversation when they are concerned about a mate? Like maybe any in your
It,
experience?
I guess with the way the job is now, you can work with a different person nearly every shift, whereas
Mm,
before we sort of had semi-permanent partners, and so you got to know them really, really well, and their families, and their wives, and their children, and you know, you we did social things together outside of work, and um, we sort of stayed in our own environment. That was another thing, similar to the military. It's like being in a like the bikies have their gangs. Well, we had our gang, and our gang was the blue gang, the blue shirts, and we were the
good guys.
yeah, we were the good guys. They were the villains, and we just hunted them down. Um, Oftentimes we won, nearly every time we won, and sometimes at great cost, but you never give up, and
Mm,
that's what people want beside them, rather than what they perceive to be a defective partner or a defective copper, in as much as your mental health, that is.
yeah. Oh yeah, that makes sense. With what support made a meaningful difference for you, and what do you wish you would have access earlier?
Well, I think oh, I was invited to go to Parliament House a few years ago and to speak at there's a mob down there called the Parliamentary Friends of Mental Illness. And well, I don't forget which brand, Labor, I think, flew me down there all the way to Canberra just for one night, then all the way back to Townsville,
Yeah.
to speak at the dinner as a guest speaker with two others, with lived experiences in various parts. So they wanted an ex-defence member, um, slash first responder with a diagnosis of post-traumatic stress and other things, to come and talk to these politicians in a semi-formal, a semi-relaxed atmosphere. And I went down and I did that. And what I tried to get them to understand was that, with regards to the work cover issues, people are pushing things uphill, trying to deal with work cover. I said to them that each one of you can go back to your constituents. Next time you're on the floor in Parliament, you might like to pass a bill or table something or have a debate about the real issue of presumptive um, causes, like So what I mean by that is, so if you're diagnosed, if you're working in first response in the police, and you do get diagnosed with a major mental illness, anxiety, major depression, whatever they are, agoraphobia, there's many of them, post-traumatic stress. I call it post-traumatic stress injury because it's not a disorder. You're not, it's
You were
something
not
you just,
born with it.
no, it's something you just acquire. And I wanted them to make it a presumptive thing that if you are diagnosed, then it is no doubt that the job caused that injury. And so that stops all the battle with the insurers for all police across Australia. That's what I was trying to get them to see, and try and get them to. I asked them to take it back to their constituents and have a chat about it, see what they can do about it. And there was a few that were interested, and there was, it was hard to gauge them. They're politicians, let's face it. They sort of just. I appreciated that they do have, in fact, a group that do that sort of thing,
Yeah.
and maybe we can get some pressure there if we need to. It'd have to be on a federal, to go across Australia, but that was it. There's yeah, just a presumptive clause to say that if you are diagnosed while you're working in the job at the time, 100% the job caused your illness, because you've got to declare mental illness when you even apply for the job. So it can only come from the job. If you've got none when you get there, and all of a sudden you have it, why is there an argument with work cover? That was my thought pattern, like.
Yeah.
So I tried that with the pollies, and they took it away, and gave it whatever thought they gave it. I've not heard back from any of them. I might add, but anyway, that's life, I guess.
Yeah. What was the anything you could have accessed earlier, like in support wise? Do you think you missed, or looking back now, lessons
Well,
learned kind of thing?
It would have been. I was a little older, as I said. I was 27 when I came from the military to their job, and all the others, or most of the others, were somewhere a couple of years younger. Most were only 18, 19 years old in those days. So they're just starting out in their work life, and I had a career before I even got there. So they sort of all look to you to have the solution to everything. And you can't possibly do that. No one can do that. You can do the best you can with what you got, but you know what I mean? And so that carried further into the job because you've been military. Examples of that, I did bomb disposal in the army. There was a bomb, or there was an alleged bomb on a building where I was working. There was no cert, there was no bomb people around, and they got me to go and do the job. So I went and did the job and sorted it out. But nobody really cares about what you bring and do. They just want to get the best out of you for the minimum cost. That is how I sort of see it. But the presumptive indicator for work cover would be a huge step in the right direction. The boys could have also thought, Jesus, Brad's drinking a lot of piss. Are you all right, mate? What are you doing? Why are you drinking so much piss? Because I know that my wife at the time, she was shaking her head way back then. She's 21 years of age with a not 6-month-old baby and a husband with post-traumatic stress. It wasn't a really good time because we were brand new married. So,
Yeah.
it was a bit difficult to get through. But we had, they introduced, I didn't even know what to call it when I was diagnosed, post-traumatic stress. So it was only sort of a newish sort of thing, the old shell shock thing from the world wars and that.
Yeah. Yeah.
So this
Yeah.
PTSD was a new thing, and not many people were willing to address it or
Call it.
yeah, or do anything like that. But I got onto a good psych. A good friend of mine came round. He said to me, get in the car. I said, no, not going anywhere. I don't want to go anywhere. He said, how long we known each other? I said, a long time. How many fights we had? I said, none. He said, get in the car or we're going to have our first. so he could flog me. So I got in the car and he drove me to this psychiatrist, and with the psychiatrist, I still see him today, but that was 1997. And he became a very good friend of mine, and he saved me from myself more than once. He's been very good to me. But he looks after mostly diggers, like ex-military and serving military as well, for that matter. But he looks after a few police as well. There's, they brought in HSOs around about that time when I was diagnosed, but they
Yeah.
put them in the regional office next to the AC's office. So there was no way in the world that rank and file police are going to walk up past all those people and go and make and access that option because of simply where it was. And then further from that, there were some that weren't. How would you put it? How to put this carefully? They were a bit loose with the truth. They would that pillow talk. They'd tell people things in confidence, things that are in confidence between you and them. they would leak to other people. So, that was a dangerous thing as well. So people just didn't trust them. Then they made peer support officers, which was a positive thing at the time and a good
Yeah.
step in the right direction, so long as they put their hand up and enter into that sort of responsibility, with an end game of what we actually want to achieve, which is a better police service, and a healthier outcome for the officers involved in the day-to-day policing. So, that they were good, but some were just in it to put on their resume, and some were in it and they did a great job, so it was a double-edged sword, really. But it was one good thing that I saw them do. Yeah, they started random drug and alcohol testing. If they thought you were drinking or using drugs or steroids or whatever, they could come along. It was very difficult to get um, permission to go and hunt someone for that type of thing. But I mean, some people needed to be saved from themselves, including myself. I had suicidal thoughts there for a while. Um, and I don't mind saying that now, but at the time I wouldn't have told a soul. Wouldn't have told a soul. You know, I would never kill myself because I have a daughter, and everybody knows how much I love Madison. Um, that's what kept me getting out of bed every day. That little girl, and still now
Yeah.
today, she's $1,000,000. She's daddy's girl.
Yeah.
But yeah, yeah,
Oh yeah, that's a very, very strong point there with the roller coaster ride you go through uh in things to achieve, or sometimes it feels a bit lonely sometimes out there, so having those good mates, sometimes having that, frank chat to
yeah,
go, you gotta get in the car
yeah.
now. I think sometimes
That's it.
that's what's needed. And how can officers balance strength, resilience, and vulnerability without feeling they are letting others down? Like, how can they balance that?
Again, I think for myself, I researched, and I probably shouldn't do it. I Google everything and I research everything, and sometimes it's a bit scary what you find on the other end. But looking into it all, I started to. Um, well, I still drank all the way up until I finished in the job, which was detrimental to me because when you have dissociative episodes in that's a part of post-traumatic stress, you just black out. You don't remember. You don't remember days. I've lost 2 days. I've lost afternoons, or simply a drive from my house to the doctor's office. I don't remember doing it, and that's frightening when you think about everything you've done. You've driven through traffic. You've other put other people at risk probably. But yeah, I don't really. I know that the odds of the police officers now, they're saying that the average civilian sees something like one or two incidents in their lives, and which could um, end with post-traumatic stress or something similar. And police officers, they said it's 800, but you know, I've kept diaries all my life since I was a 17-year-old soldier, and I've read back over my early police diaries, and I would say you could double that and still be short of the mark of
Yeah.
of stress related, live or die type of jobs you go into, or domestic violence, or road crashes, trauma, or child abuse. You name it. We've got to go. You don't get a choice. Everyone runs out. We run in, and it's a
Yeah.
choice to do the job too. We've got to keep
Yeah.
that in our minds as well. We don't have to do the job. We choose to do it because a lot of us are just built for it. I loved it, you know, and you probably loved it yourself when we started. It was great. It was just fun. They pay you to do it, and then
Yeah.
the gloss wears off after a while, and then you're just sort of slugging along. getting through your days and trying to save your marriage and trying to save the world on one hand, and you're trying to save yourself on the other.
Yeah, it's kind of like a battle from all different angles.
It is. Yep. Yeah. It's a multitasking sort of tsunami of all different stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So no, it's yeah, it's a very interesting journey, interesting pathways. But
It
it's
is.
a rewarding one too. Then, because when you look back, you see so many good things officers do out there, and save so many people and all that. So, but that's something to be proud of too, like. And this is where it leads to my next question: like, what simple actions can members take today to better look after for each other, like in that sense?
Well, like we used to all. I lived in the Kerwin barracks, the single man's barracks there for a while, when I split up with a partner before I got married, and we would all we would do everything together, or not everything together, but if one was going out, we'd all go out. If someone went home, but we all went
Yeah.
home. We didn't leave anyone out to get, maybe bashed or,
Get in trouble.
someone fine. Yeah. So the safety in numbers and that sort of thing. But I mean, you can seek help. There's people that you trust. Like I know, I had one dear friend. He's retired from the job now. He was shot up in Kelso by a kid years ago. Went through his arm, went through the glass door and through his arm. So he had PTSD as well, and he took himself off the road, went into the communications centre, and he coached himself to beat PTSD as much as he could. And I always respected that. And he was the one that came around and put me in the car and took me to the psych, because he knew that without that, then I would probably drink myself to death.
Yeah.
Um, and I was taking all their medications on top of that, and I was going to work. And I wasn't pissed at work, but I was hungover at work to the max, and that's not a good a good way to go and do what we do. With a
Yeah.
hangover, you're hungover, you're going to be a bit sloppy. So, it was a bit loose and and I'm a bit ashamed of that, but that's the best I could do at the time with what what I had.
What you were dealing with, internally in yourself. Like you have a battle inside at the time, so that's what you're doing. So, and this is like in 80s or something, isn't it? Or 90s? Sorry, 90s.
Well, yeah, from 88 till 2021. That was in service in the blue. But we learned a lot. We did a lot of courses. Um, I was able to make some. I was happy with that. That let me take my daughter to school and home. That was different when you can what my psych did. He talked to me about when I first got diagnosed, um, the option of going to teach, and I said, "Don't be stupid, Michael. No one, everybody, there's nothing that beats street policing." I was all for gung ho, giddy up, let's go. But most certainly, if that trip to the academy, it probably saved my life, because that put me in a whole different arena. I had to learn. I mean, I knew what I was doing police wise. Then I had to learn how to teach it to new kids without putting them on the wrong side, and
Yeah.
without all the old um, garbage that we were doing that wasn't good for us, sort of
Yeah.
thing. Um, so that was interesting as well. So that gave me a bit of a paradigm shift in my head. Um, Being a union rep, I used to get the boys and girls and sit them down and give them a chat. Those kids at the academy, I'd sit and about stupid things, and don't the courier mail test and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, and most of them, they appreciated it. And I only used examples of things that I did that didn't work, or things I did that did work for me. And so a balance and act, but the ones people came up to me years later and thanked me. They hated my guts at the academy because I was a hard bastard, but they
Well, you had
they
to
got
be,
it.
you
Oh
trying to
yeah,
trying to put the guys and girls in the right direction, like you were saying,
that's
like
it.
what we said. You were like going, "This is what I did. Don't do this."
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah. As long as it wasn't going to get me charged, I'd tell them.
yeah,
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
like you did impart your experience on those guys and girls to sort of make sure you were following the right rules and stuff. I remember
Yeah.
when I was in Manaz and Bemidji, I was doing my uh what was that, CDP,
Okay.
and I
Yeah.
remember
Yeah.
it used to be our marker
Yeah.
facilitator.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
we'll send things, and it was good because you used to tell us exactly, like, we like talking to you because you were able to go like, this is what you've done wrong. You want to have to make it this way, and
Yeah.
that it was the way you used to explain to me. It was great because I was like, oh, that's exactly what he wants. So cool. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
because at the time, sometimes you read those CDP, it was not, sometimes it didn't make
Yeah.
sense, and he just went on a little tangent and did something and
Yeah.
come back and it's like, no, man,
Yeah.
you off
When
mark right there.
when it started off, it was only in its infancy, and it was a sort of a uh, on the run sort of program. We sort of made it better each time. Every year we'd have a conference, and we'd each get a piece to pull apart. We'd go to a motel somewhere. We'd go off site in plain clothes into a resort somewhere, um, and we'd meet in one of the rooms, the biggest room, and we'd share our knowledge and change the program around a little. We introduced the virtual reality and the locking down of the PSPA declarations,
Yeah,
and and I saw almost certainly straight away when we were teaching that they just loved it. They soaked it up like sponges, and it was something they could easily do
yeah,
once you explained it to them. You'd lecture them all, then you'd put them in the situation, and you could coach them, and you could ask them questions to prompt them,
yeah,
and they'd get it. You knew that, and I'd tell them, you know what to do.
yeah.
I need you to do it. I'm not going to
Because
tell you what to do. Yeah,
remember that 1 week course, when you finish your
year three.
CDP, yeah, CDP, and then you got to come back and do the workshop. And that's
That's
when you
right.
guys were doing the virtual reality stuff. And I remember you were taking the class, and it was, yeah, it was so like you had a great ability to teach us. Like it was just yeah, you could, yeah, whatever you're saying, it made sense all the time. Even like with assignments and stuff, like, no,
Yeah,
you haven't done this right. This you got to do this. Oh, right, that's what they're talking about. Okay, cool. And then you do it. So no, we're very grateful, man. Like you helped us a lot, especially we were out remote, right? We were like in Manasa and Bemidji area, which,
yeah,
and it was sometimes, if you're living in Townsville and stuff, you can go to the academy and have the one-on-one. For us, it was before this teams and stuff, so you got to be on the phone
that's it. Yeah,
trying to
but
get the.
I thought, well, if you have to do it, and I'm not an academic myself, I was just a soldier and then a copper. Um, so I didn't have any degrees or anything like that. And so with that, I thought, well, doing my MDP, management development, I had the same attitude. I think, bloody hell, what do they want here? And because I wasn't a very good assignment writer myself, you just get in there, waffle along mostly. But I passed them all. So if I could pass them, then I thought, well, anyone could. But then you got to put it in layman's terms, simple enough to understand so that they can grasp it and pick it up and run with it.
Yeah.
But going back to what I just thought of something that else that I did along the way with regards to looking after each other, having your
Yeah.
six in a realistic way. I had a girl here many years ago in Townsville, and she wasn't happy with the job, and they were treating her like shit. treating her very poorly and belittling her, just crushing her spirit. And I could see it. And I thought, well, I don't even know that she did anything wrong, but they just came down on her. Like it seemed if someone did something wrong, everybody piled on and just kicked the crap out of their mental health and their self-esteem and their, you know, and they're battling. Then after that, they feel really bad. I sat in my car one day and I sent this girl a text, and all I wrote in there was something like, "Hey, darling, hope you're going all right." I call everyone darling, so that no one gets offended by it. I don't mean anything by it.
Yeah.
How you going? Hope you're doing all right. Always remember, you are irreplaceable because you are you. Take care, never stop smiling, and never surrender. Something like that.
Yeah.
You know, years later, she came to me and she told me in confidence, and I'm saying no names here, but she was on her way to work when I sent that text. This is how timing and arsey sort of things happen. I sent this text to her. She was driving to work and she got the text, but she came and confided that she was going to drive to work, go into the equipment room, set herself up to go to work, load her Glock, and shoot herself to death inside that room.
Jeez.
When she read the text that I had sent her, she didn't do it. And I knew nothing about this for many, many, many years. So years and years later, I go and see her, and she's out of the job now, and she's with a fella. She got a husband, and they're just a bit south. I said, "Come, do you want to come over and say good day?" So I drove over and said hello. And, on her phone, she still had the same text.
Oh,
She kept
wow.
she kept that all her life from that time on. And she said to me, she told me then I was going in there to kill myself, to teach them a lesson. I said, "Darling girl, you wouldn't have taught them a thing. They'd have turned the page, filled your seat the next day, and it would have been pointless." And she said, "I realised that, and I realised I could do something else." And so she got out of the job, and now she's kicking goals. So a simple thing like a text, mate, like
Yeah.
I was nearly in tears when she showed it to me, because I thought nothing. I used to do it all the time,
Yeah.
just checking on people.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's
you just
so
never know.
so important to even like it's like a gesture like that. It's so important to turn somebody's if they were focused on something, you can sort of get them refocus in a positive direction instead of going down the slippery slide. So no,
That's it.
thank you,
Yeah.
thank you for sharing that. Like that's a really good one. So in your experience, like uh you know like the best way. Like I know, like now we've got technology and stuff like that, where people can ring or FaceTime or whatever, stuff like that. So or catch up for coffee and stuff like that. Uh, do you like write those kind of stuff, like having that personal contact with somebody to say, "Are you okay?" kind of thing?
I still do now. Yeah, of course. Yeah. Probably 3 or 4 times a week, mate.
Yep.
To all different people. People. I know a lot of first responders. My daughter's a first responder in Mississippi in America right now. She's a
Oh
paramedic.
wow,
Yeah, so she's in the
jeez,
wild, in the deep south,
the
in the Wild
Mississippi,
West,
Mississippi, yeah, that is.
in the Mississippi Delta. Yeah, she's
Oof,
down in Biloxi, right on the Gulf of Mexico or Gulf of
wow.
America or whatever the Dons call
Yeah,
it this time. Um,
yeah,
but she's kicking goals over there. And
yeah,
in fact, with my baby, I made a deal with her that undertaking that sort of a job, I was
yeah,
happy with her doing it. But I said to her, if you have a fatal or a stressful incident, a shooting,
yeah,
or anything at all that gets in your mind and sticks in your mind, and you can't shake it, ring me any time of the
yeah,
day or night. But you ring me, and this is a deal we're going to make right now, and we're going to shake on it. And we
yeah,
did. And you know that kid, she calls me. So,
Yeah.
Dad, we had this guy shot his knee out. I said, what? Shot his knee out? Did he get shot? She said, no, he shot himself accidentally. And she said, all it did was it traveled down from his holster, down his leg, and blew his kneecap out. And she said the
Accidental.
funny thing, so she turned it around on him because he was all
Yeah.
worried and upset and he was hurting.
Yeah.
And Maddie said, well, you're only going to have to charge him. 2 weeks later, he was getting a knee replacement. She said, it's going to cost you half the money because you just blew your kneecap out. That's my little girl. So she's picked up stuff off her daddy. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
funny, but you know,
Yeah,
it works
Yeah.
on every aspect, you know, on every level of first response, you know, needs some sort of catalyst in the post era, maybe not immediately after, maybe a day after or a week after. I used to ring people when I did death messages, which are the shittiest things, you know. They're not
Yeah.
good things to do. Ringing up, they're knocking on a door to tell someone they've lost a loved one, you know. But I made a point of calling them about a week or two later, and I always inquired, and I'd ring up and I'd say, hello, like Mrs. Smith, for example. How you going? My name's Brad. I was the police officer that came the other night when you lost Kim. And I talk it in a real sense because it is real, you know, and they've got to confront it. But I put it in a way that, you know, I'm just ringing up to make sure that you're okay. If you need anything, if we can help you with anything, you've got my number. Please call me. Please don't do anything rash and that sort of thing. And you know, they'll send you a thank you card or whatever. I pulled a girl out of a DV situation in Billawheeler many, many years ago. And she'd been in this domestic violence prison with a husband, always remote and rural settings. And he was beating the crap out of her nearly every night. And this one night he started on her parents. So I made it, we used to work on our own then, one up. I made it my aim was to grab him and have him in custody by daybreak. I found him in the PCYC phone box, abusing his in-laws, and I've pulled up in the police car. He's walked out of the box. I grabbed him and threw him in the car. He had a little go, but he was a bit pissed. So we had a little set to, like a little punch on, and put him in the car, put him back in the watch house. And she sent me Christmas cards for 10 years after that.
Wow.
10 years. Her mum and dad wrote letters to the boss. You know, I was about I went there from TI, so I was probably a third year, fourth year, Connie.
Yeah.
But just little things like that, you know.
Yeah. But things like this to be proud of too, you know, like you saved some lady from years of torture or probably death, you know. So and these are things that we forget sometimes. Like so many officers do such a great job out there, and sometimes we forget that and we get into that mindset, and that's why we need the buddy system to people to watch out for, because everybody's, you know, goes out and trying to do the best job and just trying to. It's it's very, very important to have that.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah,
it's like when you talk about the death message, it just brought me memories. It's one of the, like, I never had any dramas with any kind of job I did in policing. You know, I'll go in, kick doors, bikies, chase after them, or in the communities, face bows and arrows, and you know, you name it.
Yep.
Didn't phase me. Never phased me, right? But giving that message was, it was, I used to, I just could, like, I've done it, heaps of it, but it's just never, you want to do it right. You want to do it right. But every time you went, it's just the worst.
It is.
Feeling, you know, it's just the worst
soul-destroying,
feeling.
isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
Soul-destroying,
I remember my first one because I thought I did it in academy, like, you know, you do half an hour of the training, and I was like, I'm done. So we went. I was working in Annerley, and I was with my sergeant then, and because we had to give a death message, I'm like, I can do it. Like, you know, you just want to, you know, you're first there, you want to jump in and do all the jobs, and so I'm like, no, I'm good. I've done the training. I rock up on the door knocked up, and they opened up, and I choked. I didn't know what to say because obviously they were smiling, and you know, they were happy inside, and then next thing you
Yeah.
know, you just gone, oh, I've got to
Yeah.
tell them anyway. I think it just backpedal from there. But yeah, I just that's one part of the job. I just I'll still do it, but that's one thing. If somebody says what job you get to pick not to do, that's the one.
That's it. And I
I
think
didn't.
my FTO had double-headed coin because he used to toss a coin, the bastard, and say, "I'll toss you for it." And I
You do
never,
it.
son of a bitch. It didn't matter what it landed on. It was always
Yeah.
going to be me. But I did. I'll tell you about a quick one. There was a car crash just north of Cairns, and it rolled the car and it killed the occupant. And so we were there, just the two of us, and we were waiting on the coroner to come out to take her away. We took some photos. We rolled the car off her, actually. It was just a little tiny car. It crushed her from the waist up, pulled her out of the car. She didn't have a seatbelt on. Had an argument with the boyfriend, got the shits, got in the car, drove off, came out of Buchan's Beach in north of Cairns and turned north on the Bruce Highway, lost it and rolled it, and she died. Anyway, so we went and did the job. We looked through for an address, and took us another hour and a half or something to find the right address. And the deceased's name was Kim. And so I knock on the door, and this lady is big as a Mack truck. And she answers the door, and she sees the police, and she just faints on the floor. And she was a big, big woman. All of us couldn't lift her up. I just got a cushion off the sofa and put it under her head, best we could do. And then her husband came out, and he was stick thin. He was just a skinny little man, and it was weird. But anyway, so I went in and made a cup of tea. You can't even do that anymore. I put the billy on, made a cup of tea, found some biscuits, and just random rummaging through some stranger's kitchen. You'd imagine doing that today. You wouldn't be able to do it. You'd get charged with something, search without a warrant or something. But anyway, so yeah, we did this. Anyway, we're there for probably 40 minutes, and we're starting to calm down and have a talk and go through the ins and outs of what you need to do from here and with regards to the process. And the door rings, the front door rings. And I think, bloody hell, what is that? And my partner said, go get that. So get the front door. So I get the front door, and I opened the front door, and the girl we just put in the mortuary was standing in front of me at the front door.
Jeez.
And I shit myself. I screamed. I squealed like a baby. I squealed like a girl. And no offense to any women listening to this, but this lady was pregnant, and her name was Lynn. So when I said Kim to the mum, she thought I said Lynn, and she thought she'd lost a daughter and a granddaughter, but not taking nothing away from losing her other daughter. But
Yeah.
that's what she thought. And this girl was an identical twin.
Oh,
And she
right.
just felt, yeah, this is freaky. She thought something was wrong and came to her mother's house. And here we were. And her twin was deceased. So sad. But she said, I knew something was up, so I just came. But bloody hell, you give me the fright, the heebie-jeebies.
Yeah.
It was pretty freaky, I tell you. But anyway, yeah.
Jesus. Yeah, that would be like, oh my God, what's happening here?
Oh, I couldn't believe it. I just put a toe tag on you, mate. What are you
Yeah.
doing? Yeah, very
Yeah.
scary.
It would be, yeah. Especially like the identical twin, it'll be pretty hard. I sad time,
Oh,
but sometimes it's just like, damn. You're probably
yep,
thinking, what I'm doing here then? Like, the person's not
yeah.
dead.
No, it scared me. Took me ages to come. My heart was going 100 mile an hour. Jesus. But that's that's the nature of the job, isn't it? Every day's different. Every job's different. You never know till you go.
Yeah,
You got
that's it.
you got to you got to go through every part of what you're going to and try and
Yeah.
make a plan, and hopefully it works out. But then in
Yeah.
the aftermath, you need a debrief of some sort,
Yeah.
or you need some sort of, it can't be annual. It's got to be tactically done, and tacitly done, so it doesn't upset the person further, but it gives
Yeah.
them some foundation and reinforcement, they've done the right thing, it's going to mess with your head, and you're going to need to deal with that. Those are the three important things. You get reinforcement for doing a good job. You get also told that, yeah, this is going to come up again, no doubt. And when it does, you need to deal with it, or we can deal with it or tomorrow or whatever. Yeah. So, I think that's a good thing to, because a lot of them just get abused, or, maybe they're only their first go at doing stuff. You can't crush them just because they get something wrong. Although when it's life and death, you probably give them a bit of a serve then. But yeah, they all deserve, a fair go. And that's all we really want. You just want a fair go to work, do your job, and come home safe, and intact, with you, even your family. They even need. I used to take my wife to my psych visits, and I'd see him, and then she'd see him, and I wouldn't go in when she spoke to him, so she could talk to him about anything, and he would only tell her what he thought she needed to know, obviously, because it's private. It's between he and I. And I told him what, how much he could share and that. But she was an emergency nurse, my ex-wife, but now she's got a doctorate in it, so you're going all right. But so I mean, as long as there's I don't think there's any quick fix, and it depends on the person itself as well. There's a lot of variables that come into it, with what we're talking about. So I don't think there's any one specific thing that would actually do it, except not to do policing. But it's like I said, it was the greatest job when I joined. It was the greatest job you could do, and get paid for. I couldn't believe they paid us for it. It was great fun. Just running around locking people up. That was fun. Drug warrants, search warrants, everything. It was good fun. Water police, drug crops, bikies. Gold. It was all fun. Yeah, until it's not. And when it's not, it's not. But I know I'm always available to talk. I know that Bobby Stanbrook, he's a stalwart. Freddie, Big Freddie in the branch. Brett McLucas in the branch. They're all of a similar. Adam Carnes at the academy, 90. They're all of the same ilk as myself. I probably taught 1,200 police when I was there. And so hopefully then they go and teach and share it, they keep going on and on and on. So people get options how to do the job and how to help themselves after.
I think this is very important, the conversation about, looking after yourself, fitness wise, nutrition, sleep, getting a hobby, getting health checks done every year, and just buddy system where, everybody needs to have each other's six, like, man, just checking up on your mates, like just, like what you said, like with that officer, you sent a message and she had some very, very dark thoughts, and you didn't know about till after a long, long time ago, that was the case, and that one text changed the trajectory of what that person was going to do that day. So, and I want there's so many people in that boat. So I think it's very important that we take time to just send a text. Everybody reads text these days, so that's a good thing. Is any other advice you want to pass it on, like to younger you, if you were just coming out of the academy now, what do you know now, and the experience you've had? Anything you would want to tell that person, like your ABC?
Yeah, I guess you just got to not be so hard on yourself. When you do make an error, everyone makes errors, and everyone does stupid things at times for whatever reasons. Mine, things that I did were alcohol induced, and that was me self-medicating, they called it. But I was alcohol induced on top of medications I was taking, and so that made it even worse. And so since 97, I don't sleep longer than 3 or 4 hours. All my sleep's interrupted, and that's a work in progress. You know, I've got a titanium plate in my throat from a job. You know, you don't be so hard on yourself. If you do something a little bit wrong, or you get chastised by someone, don't take it to heart. It's not the end of the world. It's just a correction. It's trying to guide you. It should be, hopefully, given in the right manner. It will guide you back onto the correct manner to do whatever it was that you did wrong, or that you didn't do quite right. But people are quick to pile on top of other persons who are already suffering, and that is not conducive to a good outcome. You know, people can turn on a dime, on a 5-cent piece we got. Their attitudes can turn just from being chastised at work. They can take that on board, and if they're already in a low part in their life or in their mindset, it can lead to very dark places. Alternatively, if you say, well, I would always give them the first talk. I'd say, what do you think you did really good then? You know, from that time in the car, you know, everyone's all sorted, or we're at the watch house, whatever. What did you do really well? I don't know. I don't think I did anything well. And, you know, I'll sit back and say, well, you went in, you introduced yourself. So there were no mistake for who they were talking to. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. You told them what you were there for. Then it's on them. It's not on you. It's on them. Once we say what we're there for, and we're going to try and sort it out for them, for whatever reasons we're there, there's a process. And they're proven processes, most of them. And some of it you make up along the way as you go. But as long as it works out at the end, you know, don't be so hard on yourself, and just learn, or you just learn from your mistakes. And eventually you actually make less mistakes, because you get better and better at what you're doing.
Learning the job.
The positivity is what's lacking. There needs more positivity in there, and a bit more slapping on the back, and not slapping on the head, you know, like with a book. You know, too much chastisement and not enough recognition of people's work ethic. You know, and there's a lot of people in there that I saw that probably shouldn't be in there. But that's for them to decide. They need to work out their next path, because they're not doing real well at what they were paid to do. But in any case, if you're feeling down, there's plenty of Tony Whiteman is a psychologist in town here. Tony got shot 3 times. He got one was he was an ex-cert sniper. He was shot in a equipment malfunction, same as the one I talked about, my daughter. He shot himself in the leg with a faulty holster. The trigger guard went through. It normally clipped over the back of the hammer. Well, when he went to holster, because he was doing a draw shoot, so you don't look when you put the weapon back, and it got hooked through the trigger. And as he pushed it into the holster, it fired around, went through his leg. So he just come back to work off that. And there was an armed rob at the walkabout down near the army base there. They chased him around, and the villains spun out into a vacant block. Three cars, 6 coppers. They all get out. Old mate gets out with a shotgun and starts toweling them up with a shotty. And he hit them. A few of them got, you know, but I think it was birdshot. But it still would have hurt. But in their arms, and you know, hitting the car doors, and they're all opened up with their. I think Whiteman had a bloody shitty old 38 Smith and Wesson, 5-shot 38.
Old school stuff.
I had a 357 Magnum. At the time we went there, we were in the police club on the piss. But when we heard what had happened, we all went down and sort of lent a hand. But the dog finished up getting him, Nev Younker's dog, and so he went to jail for a bit. But Tony went into a bit of a spiral with his PTSD, and he he was in like Howard Hughes. He was in his room. He had all the paper clippings on the walls. He won't mind me telling you this, but he went and studied psychology because he wanted to know what happened to him. Similar to myself, I didn't study anything. I just Googled everything and read as much as I could about it. All different opinions from all different people.
Yeah.
But Tony now, he practices out of Mason Street at Kurrajong, and a greater person you'll never meet. He's the loveliest man. He is the kindest man. He worked at the prison. He used to run the psych unit at the prison here at Club Stewart at Lotus,
Yeah.
Stewart Creek, Club
Yeah.
Stewart. We call
Club
like
Stewart, yeah.
Club Med,
Club Stewart,
Club
yeah.
Med. We used to call them Club Stewart,
Yeah.
Club Lotus, Club Etna.
Yeah.
But anyway, he left there and set up his own private office, and he's going great guns. And he's an option. He's a lovely fella. If you get in trouble outside the job, you got Richard Scheil, who's a lawyer at Lee Turnbull's, and Harvey Walters is the barrister to go to. And the union should look after the serving members, but non-serving. Once you get out, you're sort of on your own. But they've been very, very good to me. And then Harvey, when I went up against him, when I was actually operational, he said, "Why did you choose me?" And I said, "Because you were the hardest bastard I ever had to go to court against. You made me floor up every centimetre that I got." He said, "Did I ever win?" I said, "No, you didn't. But it was only just by pure luck that I got across the line." And he laughed. But
Yeah.
he's a very good barrister. Yeah. So there's a few that you can keep in mind if you need something outside of the job. My phone's always on. There's a few of us that often put up, little messages just here and there, just to keep people's minds ticking over that you
Yeah.
can actually call,
Yeah.
privately and confidentially.
Yeah.
No one wants to know everyone's business. It's none of anyone's business. But if you can help someone, then holy moly, Jesus, I needed help, and I got it eventually. But it was a long, long haul, long slog. But
Yeah.
I'm going all right now. I'm retired, and yeah, just kicking along, mate.
Oh, that's a very, very inspiring story, mate. Like, certainly there's been a lot of different things that you were involved in and did, and lessons learned and lessons passed. And one thing I really want to take from this one is that the text message to that person, knowing that somebody was having a bit of an issue, not knowing everything, but having a bit of an issue, just having a foresight to, this is what, Got Your Six is all about. It's about just providing that support, whether in person or just a text, save that person's life.
Originally, she was going to quit, and I said, "Don't quit, because you're good at it. I know you're good at it, because I taught you." And so she stuck around a little longer, but in the end, that was the end of that. And you win some, you lose some.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. Like, it's just trying to have that foresight and help as much as we can, and keeping the forum open where people feel comfortable to ring each other to just have the chat before they do anything. Sorry?
Adam Hartley's another brilliant fellow, bravery medal. Adam Hartley BM. He's a great bloke. His phone's always on. He's always up for a chat. Same.
Yeah.
Tracy Brown, Bomber Brown. He's an ex-military guy who joined the job. His phone's always on. There's plenty.
Yeah. Yeah.
I guess we should probably make some sort of a list and have it somewhere available.
Yeah. Well, what I can do is
have to be confidential, but yeah.
Yeah, we can put that through there. Like, obviously with the when I put this on the Spotify, and the next segment we do, I can put a context. Obviously, don't want to give the phone numbers out to everyone, but like, yeah,
Sure.
have it where if they want to access it, it's can be available. Just like people feel they just sometimes people just want to, even if they're retired and stuff too, like having that conversation, like you said, just having that conversation sometimes can change the trajectory of what you're thinking.
Absolutely.
It's very important.
100%. You can turn someone 180 degrees in one sentence.
Yeah.
you know, just by being nice.
Yeah.
You don't, I mean, all too often, and I was guilty of it a lot of times too, in the job, working and living and just being in the job all the time, you become hard. You become hardened to everything. I was harder in the job than I was in the military. And the military was no,
No
walk in the
pushover.
park. No,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
yeah, the job makes you hard, and you gotta understand that there's two sides to the balance. You can correct someone by guidance without destroying their self-esteem and their, you can bring them, you can lift them up, but still correct whatever the error was, or whatever's
Yeah.
going on,
Yeah.
and you give them some options and stuff. And a lot of times, even with the divorces, like my divorce was horrendous. My lawyer, the guy that did my divorce, he's done about 10 coppers. They just ring me, say, "Who'd you use?" And I put them onto the guys, because they need someone who knows the job, and
Yeah.
they need someone who's going to be on their side. And that's a simple thing to do, and if they won't look at it themselves, you can ring them and say, "Hey, what are you doing? Pull up. You
Yeah.
back away. You're going to fall off the edge. You fall in the hole, I'll jump in and get you out, but it's a big hole to get out of,
Yeah.
an easy hole to fall back into, really easy."
Yeah. Very important to have the right support, right people around to guide you back out into the light. Sometimes that's what happens to people,
100%.
But yeah, well, Brett, thank you very much for this great chat and
No worries.
sharing your story. It is a very, very interesting journey you've been on, and thank you for sharing some amazing advice. And with that, strength in policing is not just about carrying burdens alone. It's about knowing when to lean on others, like what you said. Like just providing the support, checking in, listening without judgment, and encouraging support can save careers and lives. Which what you've actually done in your experience. If you're struggling, help is a sign of professionalism, not weakness. If you notice a mate withdrawing or hurting, step in. Your presence may be the turning point. We all have a possibility to truly got your six on or off the duty. All righty. Thank you very
That's it,
much.
brother. Yeah.